Today we celebrate Reformation Sunday, the most important anniversary in the Lutheran tradition. It's also a significant moment in human history, a time when the voice of the people spoke out against an oppressive leadership. For the first time in human history, sacred text was made available to everyday people through Martin Luther's translation of the Bible. And masses of people were made aware of new thought through the invention of the printing press. And to top it all off, 127 years ago on this very day, St. John Lutheran Church was born. What a day to celebrate the Reformation. How does the Reformation, this idea of a Reformation, hold sway in our lives today and in the life of our church and country? It seems to me we have fallen away from the concept of being a people who reform. And by that I mean people who are continually starting fresh. This is the very backbone of Luther's vision of the church and of God, that we come to grace through our faith, not through our deeds, that our mistakes do not linger with us, that we are constantly returning to a place of starting over, beginning anew, reforming. That was a big break from tradition back in Luther's day, when life was about adding up sins and favors. And it's a step apart from the way that we live now, when our life and our transgressions may be even more etched in stone online. But what does the idea of reforming even mean? How can we as individuals reform? As a church? As a country? Well, first of all, we decide we want to. Now, this may sound trite, but I meet people all the time who talk about making big changes in their lives, but who don't really have the true conviction behind it. Staying the same, going along as it ever was, is just so easy, so much less exhausting. And chances are, we convince ourselves we'll just end up back where we started. Who even says it'll work? I imagine that Martin Luther took a pretty big breath the second before he nailed his 95 Theses to the door in Wittenberg. And then he just went for it. That's how it also has to be with us. But when we say we decide, we need to say it with conviction. I see that happening with our three churches right now. It took a long time to get where we are, three churches with one purpose. Service ministry to the community is stronger and reaches more people in need. Our joint worship service is an example to other churches of how adapting to unexpected circumstances can lead to modern, innovative solutions. By coming together, our youth and youngest members have remained strong and active. It has not been easy, but we have persevered. We have believed. We became a reforming community during a time of global reformation. But we also need a plan. To reform in our own lives, we just can't wake up in the morning and expect the work to be done. We have to map it out, do it step by step, set goals to meet, and then check in as we progress. Those same rules that we apply to projects at work should apply to our personal lives as well. Yet we all adapt and change plans to fit circumstances, just as each of our church communities has been exploring a way forward that's unique to their own context. Resurrection has increased their partnership with Care4 to have more needed rentals for increased seniors programming in the Orleans area. They have helped to launch the very first Arabic-speaking church in our Eastern Synod. Not only does this make them more financially viable, but it also gives new life to an emerging demographic. St. John's and St. Peter's are starting an important stage in their planning process to engage members in working group discussions. And these discussions will focus on different areas of the church, relating back to the vision statement produced from our meeting just a few weeks ago. We have set a plan, and we have moved forward. But let us not get too locked down. A plan must be flexible, prepared to zigzag or change course, because a third ingredient that we need to reform is the ability to be ready for do-overs. We won't always get it right the first time. In fact, we won't often get it right. Reforming happens over and over again. But if we aren't intentional with the change that we want to make, we also can't be mindful of the chance that we're going down the wrong path. And the fourth element to remember, to be a truly reforming people, is to look beyond ourselves. This really is what it all comes down to. It's human nature to see the world with ourselves at the center. Martin Luther and his understudy, Philip Melanchthon, went on to make the same mistake, arguing with Calvin and Zwingli and other reformers over more arcane matters when there was real work to be done. True Reformation calls upon all of us to see the world more widely, to see all of us as interconnected, to ask the big picture question. What kind of society do we want, and how will we make it happen? What kind of church do we want, and how will we play a part? From that perspective, we don't even have to agree, because we are starting from a place of generosity, with the long game in mind, with future generations in our thoughts. And there may be many parallel reformations that can happen along the way. So, decide you want to reform. Make a plan. Be ready for do-overs. Reform the reforming. And look widely at the long game. This is what the Reformation stands for. The power of people to bring about change, freed up by God's grace from judgment. The notion of breaking away from the way things have been, setting aside what should be, what ought to be, and looking honestly at the space between what is and where you want to be, and bringing those two together. Every day we start in a new place, different from the last day, hopefully ahead and not behind, but new, ready to bring about a reformation. Happy Reformation Day. Amen.